Hello everyone, this is Zalcka, and today we're going to learn about Mendelian genetics using Minecraft. Mendelian genetics refers to the pattern of how traits are passed down from parents to their offspring. Have you ever wondered why you can look so similar to your parents and yet so different? In the real world, parents who are both tall can have a child who is short. But how can this be? Well, it turns out there are rules that gene inheritance follows that can allow us to better understand and predict the passing of traits. In the 19th century, a scientist named Gregor Mendel observed the patterns of gene inheritance with pea plants, and today we're going to use Minecraft to try to understand his discoveries. However, we're first going to need to know some definitions before we can dive deeper into Mendelian genetics. Firstly, genes are sections of DNA that code for traits such as hair color or eye color, and alleles are variations of a gene. Alleles can be represented by letters, with a capital letter representing the dominant allele and its trait, and a lowercase letter representing a recessive allele and its trait. Mendel's law of segregation states that an organism receives one allele from each parent. Therefore, if we have a rabbit and the yellow allele for fur color in rabbits, big Y, is dominant to the recessive white allele, little y, the rabbit could have gotten one yellow dominant allele from his mom and one white recessive allele from its dad, making the rabbit have the alleles big Y, little y. Or the rabbit could have gotten both white or both yellow alleles from its parents. These pairs of alleles in letter form are called the genotype, and the actual resulting physical traits of the organism are called phenotypes. Lastly, we already mentioned dominant and recessive alleles, but what does this mean? Well, dominant alleles traits are always expressed in the phenotype, or physical trait. So if a genotype has two or even just one of the dominant alleles, or big letters, the dominant trait is expressed. Recessive alleles, on the other hand, can be masked by dominant traits, making them almost like they're shy if the dominant allele is around. Therefore, recessive alleles are only expressed in the phenotype if the organism has both recessive alleles for a trait, or two lowercase letters in the genotype. If a genotype has two dominant or two recessive alleles, it is considered homozygous, and if it has one dominant and one recessive allele, it is heterozygous. Okay, so now we're in business to understand Mendelian inheritance. Let me tell you that hypothetically, brown wool is dominant to white wool in Minecraft sheep, and the brown wool allele is big W and the white wool allele is small w. Okay, so now the sheep we see in front of us is brown, so what could its possible genotype be? Remember, a genotype is a pair of alleles expressed in capital and lowercase letters. Pause the video to come up with an answer. Okay, so hopefully you noticed that because the sheep is brown and brown is dominant, the sheep must have a dominant allele, which is big W. Therefore, we can say that the genotype could be big W homozygous or big W small w heterozygous. Next, we have a white sheep. Pause to figure out what its genotype could be. If you said small w, you are correct. Now, to understand how parents pass on their alleles and therefore genes to their offspring, we can create something called a Punnett square. Let's say we're crossing a homozygous dominant brown sheep dad with a homozygous recessive white sheep mom. What will be the percentages of the offspring's phenotypes? Well, let's breed the sheep to find out. So we can see that all our baby sheep are brown. And now let's use a Punnett square to understand what's going on here. First, let's create a 2 by 2 square and put the alleles of each parent's genotype on the left and top of the square. You can think of this as putting the mom's genotype on the top and the dad's genotype on the left, but this orientation does not really matter. Then, fill in the squares with the genotypes of the offspring based on the outside alleles. Here, we can see that 100% of our offspring have the brown phenotype and the big W small w genotype, meaning all of the offspring are heterozygous. Next, let's cross two homozygous recessive white sheep. Here, we can see that all offspring are white. Looking at our Punnett square, we can see that 100% of our offspring have the white wool phenotype, and the small w genotype, meaning all offspring are homozygous recessive. Lastly, what would be the percentages of the phenotypes and genotypes of the offspring if two heterozygous brown sheep are crossed? Pause the video and create a Punnett square to try and figure this out on your own. Okay, so after breeding the sheep, we can see that 3 of them are brown and 1 is white. Taking a closer look at our Punnett square, we can see that after we cross the heterozygous parents, we have 75% brown wool phenotypes and 25% white wool phenotypes. Looking at the genotypes, we have 25% big WW genotype, 50% big W small w or heterozygous genotype, and 25% small w genotype. Okay, y'all, that's it for today on Mendelian genetics. Thanks for watching, and please leave a like if this helped. See you next time.